Hey everybody, Dirty Dan here. So today we're going to take a look at my Tyco wishlist sets, otherwise Tyco pieces that I've been looking for but haven't been able to get in my hands yet. So let's dive right into it.
Number 12, the Tyco Mass train set.
This is not one that I know a whole lot about, but what I do know is it's very similar to the G.I. Joe and Transformers set that Tyco came out with. But the interesting thing is it has a very unique paint scheme. It has a purple diesel switcher, along with a few freight cars and a bunch of other accessories that went specifically with the set.
Number 11, the Tyco Tropicana set.
So this is a set that I've known about for years now, and I've actually been fortunate enough to meet a few folks that actually had either pieces to the set or the complete set. It seems as though this is another one of those promotional pieces that Tyco didn't make a whole lot of, and who knows how many survived. So it's made them pretty uncommon, and people are pretty familiar with them. So whenever you do find them, they're pretty pricey, even just the boxcars themselves. So it can be really tricky to find them, especially the complete set.
Number 10, the Chessi SD24.
Now this locomotive isn't particularly rare. I know they're uncommon. I have seen a few up for sale, but I've never jumped on one yet. I've actually done a full history video on the Tyco SD24, and ever since that video, I have really wanted to get my hands on the Chessi system version. I've seen a few pop up here and there, like I said before. I'm waiting for the one that I find that's in fantastic condition because the paint scheme on those locomotives is just fantastic looking. It's always one that I've wanted.
Number 9, the Canadiana Sharknos.
So it seems like this locomotive's become a little bit more well known nowadays. People kind of know the rarity of them, so it's become really tricky to find one, especially for a reasonable price. There's not anything particular that I like about the locomotive. It's just that it's unique, and the fact that it's in the Canadiana paint scheme is really interesting. Of course, I already have the Canadiana C430, but this is sort of just a gap filler, but it is a unique one nonetheless.
Number 8, the Dark Green Crescent Limited.
The early version of Tyco's Crescent Limited set has got to be one of my favorite Tyco sets, period. And of course, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the HO Collector article on the set. I have yet to get the article itself, but the pictures on the cover and in the magazine are fantastic. And it's just an amazing looking set. It's just from a completely different time. The chrome finish on the cars, the color of the locomotive, everything just works in that set. The chrome finish on the cars, though, doesn't hold up very well to the test of time, so it can be really difficult to find a set that's in real good shape.
Number 7, the Belt F9A.
These are extremely rare. I've really never seen a whole lot about these, and I figure this is actually something similar to the Union Pacific 280, but there is actually some little documentation online. There's very few pictures. I've never even seen one in person. That's how rare these things are. Most people don't even know they exist. They're a very little known piece that Tyco made, but man, they're stunning. That paint scheme looks so good on that locomotive. They're really tricky to find though.
Number 6, the Gulf Mobile Ohio GP20.
The GM&O GP20 is a pretty particular staple of the later Tyco years. The paint scheme on them is just so vibrant, and it looks so great next to the GM&O 280. But unfortunately, they're another one of those locomotives during those later years that were made in really low production numbers. So they're very difficult to get a hold of.
Number 5, Australian Tyco.
Now I've sort of generalized this section as I am not fully versed in this part of Tyco. I know a general, information about them, but there's a number of Australian pieces that were produced by Tyco, but I don't know in what kind of numbers. I don't know how many exist in Australia, and the even rarer thing is to find them over in the States here. So this is a section that I don't know a whole lot about, but I'd really like to get my hands on at least one or two pieces at some point. The Queensland Railway scheme on the C430 with that turquoise front is one of my favorite schemes I've ever seen on a Tyco C430. Something about the colors just looks fantastic, and the matching caboose, man, what a set.
Number 4, the Western Pacific, Durango, and Silver Streak caboose.
Most of you have probably heard about the Durango Streamline caboose. Those are pretty difficult to find, but I bet you haven't heard of the Western Pacific caboose, which I have no idea how many they made of. I've only ever seen a few, and even more rare is the Silver Streak caboose. You know Tyco Silver Streak, right? There's another version, but it's just a plain red caboose with a fancy Silver Streak logo on the side. There's also a matching F unit, which is just obscenely rare. I think this is something that was only produced for the Canadian market, and however many they made, it couldn't be a lot.
Number 3, the Santa Fe Sharknos.
So as previously mentioned in my Johnson Wax promotional set video, the Santa Fe Sharknos is pretty rare, but it's one of those locomotives that's just super cool to me. I've always really liked it. I've seen a handful of pictures, not any videos, not a whole lot of information on them, but they're a really sharp locomotive and I really want to get my hands on one.
Number 2, the clear Tyco F units.
I have been looking for one of these for years now. They are pretty tricky to find, and there's actually an interesting story of where one slipped away from me. A former acquaintance of mine who did a lot of eBay selling, he had gotten one in an estate, and I saw it in the estate. I saw the pictures, had made it known that I was interested in the locomotive, and yet it went to eBay because the gentleman knew he would get more on eBay for it, or thought he would get more on eBay for it. Long story short, I don't talk to this guy anymore. These locomotives were only for dealer displays, and that's why they made so very few of them, and so very few survived. They made a few different versions, actually, and most people don't even know that. They have different lining for the stripes on the side. I believe there is actually 3 different versions, which is pretty impressive.
Number 1, the Talgo train.
The number 1 spot is no question for me. I have been on the hunt for a Tyco Talgo train forever. I knew about these when I was a little kid, and the first time I saw one, it just, something stuck in my head, and I've always wanted one. There's such a cool locomotive and consist. Something about it is just so eye-catching to me. I really love the design of these things. I have always wanted one, but I just haven't been able to get one. I've seen a couple go for sale, but they just fetch an unreasonable amount of money if you ask me. And so I haven't bit the bullet on one yet, but sooner or later I will find one and I will add it to my collection because it's a bucket list item of mine. And with that, those are some of my most sought after Tyco items. Now, by chance, if you happen to have one of these, you know, let me know. But regardless, I just thought this would be a super interesting thing to go over. I'm sure some of you probably didn't even know half of this stuff existed on this list, especially if you're not a Tyco fan. Hopefully in the future, a lot of these items that you're seeing on this list, I will eventually get my hands on, and you'll be able to see a video on them, because there's some pretty interesting pieces on this list, and all of them I think deserve their own video in their own right, because man, there's some really unique Tyco things out there that a lot of people just, like I said earlier, simply don't know even exist. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.